Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive.
Yeah.
This time, we're going to be looking at the life and the death of Pepsi Paloma. And she's somebody that a lot of people have heard of,
Yes.
but maybe don't know all the ins and outs. She was a Filipino actress, very popular in the early 80s.
Yes.
And known for being one of the quote-unquote soft drink beauties. And for those that don't know, I mean, you can probably figure it out, but why don't you explain what a soft drink beauty is?
So basically they were a group of actresses that were very popular in the 80s, and they got their names from different soda brands.
Right.
So you had Pepsi Paloma, Coca, Nicolas,
Right.
Cersei, Emmanuel, and a few others.
So it's really like a marketing gimmick.
Yes, it was a marketing gimmick.
And they were all kind of packaged together. I mean, how do you think that affected them, as actresses starting out, at that time?
Well, I think in a way it sort of commodified them. It made them into products instead of, actresses.
And Pepsi Paloma's real name was Delia Duenas Smith.
Yeah, Delia Smith was her real name.
So her real name was almost completely forgotten. I mean, nobody really remembers that now.
Right.
And she had a pretty difficult life.
Yes, she did.
Can you talk a little bit about her early life?
She was actually abandoned by her American father.
Oh, wow.
So she was raised by her mother in poverty.
And so she got into the industry at 14?
14 years old.
Wow.
Yes.
I mean, do you think she saw this as a way out?
I would imagine so. Yes.
Huh?
I think for a lot of young actresses or actors in the Philippines, the entertainment industry is seen as a way to escape poverty.
Yeah. I mean, it happens everywhere. But,
Yeah.
I mean, especially a place like the Philippines.
Especially in a developing country.
So she had some success.
Yes, she did.
What kind of roles was she playing?
Well, she was often typecast in roles that emphasized her youth and sexuality.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately was a common trend back then.
And that kind of leads into the controversy.
Yes.
She accused 3 comedians, Vic Sotto, Joey De Leon, and Richie DeHorsey Reyes, of rape.
Yes, and that was in 1982.
Wow, so she was only 16 at the time.
Yes.
Can you break down, what exactly happened according to her?
Well, according to Paloma, she and another actress were drugged and taken to a hotel room.
And that's where the assault allegedly took place.
Allegedly, yes.
And, I mean, this kind of overshadowed her whole career.
It did, absolutely.
It's impossible to talk about her without talking about this.
Yes.
And to make matters worse, or to add to this whole story, Tito or Vic Sotto's brother was allegedly involved as well.
Yes.
So Tito Sotto, of course, went on to be a senator in the Philippines.
Yes, he did.
But at that time, he was, I guess, just kind of like a powerful figure behind the scenes.
Yes, he was a well-known TV personality.
And what exactly was his alleged role in this whole thing?
Well, he was accused of pressuring Paloma to drop the charges.
Wow. So you had this young actress and these powerful figures trying to silence her. Did she end up dropping the charges?
Well, she did sign an Affidavit of Desistance.
What is that?
It's basically a document where you withdraw your accusations.
But even the Affidavit of Desistance is shrouded in some mystery.
Yeah, there are conflicting accounts about whether or not she actually signed it.
I see.
Some people say that she was forced to sign it.
So it was under duress.
Yes.
And just to put it into perspective, how serious were these potential charges?
Very serious.
I mean, what could they have faced?
They could have faced the death penalty.
Wow.
Yes, the death penalty was still in effect in the Philippines at that time.
So this was not a joke.
No, this was a very, very serious case.
And to add to it all, she was abducted at one point?
Yes. She was reported missing and later found being held captive by a convicted felon.
And who was this felon?
His name was Bienvenido Benulo Mendoza.
And to make things even weirder, he had some connection to the Sottos.
Yes, that's right.
What was the connection?
He was actually related to them.
Oh, wow. And so this guy confessed to the abduction.
He did.
But was he ever charged?
There's no record of him ever being charged.
So this is another one of these mysteries that's sort of hanging over this whole thing. So despite all of this, the 3 comedians actually issued a public apology.
They did.
What did they say?
They actually knelt on live TV.
Wow.
And begged for forgiveness.
And, I mean, was this a full admission of guilt?
Not really. It was more of a general apology.
What did they actually say?
They said, and I quote, "We hope that you will not allow the error we have committed against you to stand as a stumbling block to that future which we all look forward to. We therefore ask you to find it in your heart to pardon us for the wrong town which we have done against you."
So it's like they're acknowledging some
Yeah.
wrongdoing, but not specifically saying what they did.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And, of course, because of that affidavit of desistance, the case never actually went to court.
That's right.
So there was never any,
Huh.
legal finding or anything like that.
No legal resolution.
And then just 3 years after this whole incident, Pepsi Paloma was found dead.
Yes.
She was only 18 years old.
Only 18.
And the official cause of death was suicide.
Suicide by hanging.
Now, they did find a diary, allegedly hers,
Right.
that talked about some of the things that might have led her to this.
Yes, she mentioned financial issues and relationship problems.
But even the diary,
Yeah.
some questions around it.
There were some doubts about its authenticity.
Uh-huh.
Her manager actually questioned whether or not it was really hers.
And what did the police say about her death?
The police report actually suggested that the rape case may have contributed to her suicide.
Wow. So even in death, this whole thing is following her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is already a lot to process, but the story doesn't end there.
No, it doesn't.
So much more to get into.
Yes.
So let's take a quick break and we'll come back and we'll discuss the rest of this.
Sounds good. And one of the interesting things about this whole story is how the people involved kind of went on with their lives.
Right.
Like Tito Sotto. I mean,
Yeah.
he went on to have a very successful political career.
Became a senator?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, you would think that something like this would completely derail somebody's
I
career,
don't think so.
especially in politics. I mean,
Yeah.
your reputation is everything.
And this case definitely followed him throughout his career.
I mean, did anything ever happen where it kind of came back to bite him, so to speak?
Well, there was this incident in 2018 where he tried to get online articles about the case removed.
Really?
Yeah, he said they were damaging his reputation.
I mean, I guess that's understandable from his perspective.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
did it work?
No, it backfired.
How so?
Well, it basically created what's known as the Streisand effect.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
For those who don't know,
Yeah,
explain the Streisand effect.
Yeah. So it's basically when you try to suppress information
Okay.
and it ends up having the opposite effect.
So, like, the more you try to hide something,
Yeah.
more attention it gets?
Exactly.
So by trying to get these articles removed, he actually drew more attention to them.
Yes. And it really reignited the whole controversy.
Yeah, it's like you're trying to put out a fire with gasoline.
Exactly.
And then to make things even more complicated, in 2024, Coca Nicolas,
Right.
another one of the soft drink beauties, came out and said that the whole rape accusation was a publicity stunt.
Yeah, she claimed that no assault actually happened.
I mean, this was years later.
Yes, like decades later.
So how did people react to that?
Well, it was very divisive.
Yeah.
Some people thought she was trying to protect the comedians,
Right.
while others thought she was finally telling the truth.
And I mean, she would have been there.
She was there, yes.
So she would have firsthand knowledge of what happened
Right.
or didn't happen.
Exactly.
So, I mean, where does that leave us?
Well, it leaves us with a lot of unanswered questions.
Right.
And no real closure.
Yeah. This whole story is like a puzzle
Mhm.
where some of the pieces are missing.
Exactly.
And then there's the upcoming film, The Rapist of Pepsi Paloma,
Yes, that's right.
which is,
It's a very controversial film.
yeah, even the title is very provocative.
Very provocative.
What do you think about this film?
Well, I think it has the potential to be very impactful,
Mm-hmm.
but it also has the potential to be very exploitative.
Right.
It's a delicate balance.
And do we think that this film is going to provide any answers?
I don't know if it will provide any answers.
Yeah.
But I think it will definitely spark a lot of conversation.
Yeah, it'll keep the story alive,
Yeah.
which I guess is important.
It is important to keep these kinds of stories alive.
Right, because if we forget them, then
Then we're doomed to repeat them.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, this has been really fascinating.
Yeah.
A lot more to unpack here.
Yes.
So let's move on to the final part of our deep dive.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Pepsi Paloma. And I don't know about you, but I'm still kind of reeling from all this.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder. I mean, with all these different versions of this story floating around,
Yeah.
How can we even be sure what really happened?
Right. I mean, that's the thing about cases like this. It's all about perspective and interpretation.
Yeah, and I guess with so much time having passed, memories can get distorted and, people's motives for speaking out now might not be entirely pure.
Exactly. And you have to consider the influence of the media, the rumors, the speculation, all of that contributes to the confusion.
So how do we, as, people who are trying to understand this story,
Yeah.
how do we sort through all of that noise and get to some semblance of the truth.
Well, I think it starts with being critical of the information that's out there.
Yes.
You're not just accepting everything at face value.
Questioning everything.
Questioning everything, looking for corroboration, considering the source's biases, all of that.
And I guess also realizing that there might not be one single truth.
Right. It might be more about understanding the different perspectives and acknowledging the gray areas.
Yeah, and I think something else that's really important to remember is that at the heart of all of this is a real person.
Absolutely.
You know, Pepsi Paloma was a young woman with hopes and dreams and aspirations, and her life was cut tragically short.
And I think it's easy to forget that when we get caught up in the legal details or the sensationalism of the story.
Yeah, it's important to humanize her, to remember that she was more than just a headline or a scandal.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the things that this upcoming film could potentially do well.
You mean The Rapist of Pepsi Paloma?
Yes, that's the one.
It's a bold title, that's for sure.
It is, but I think it could also be a powerful way to bring attention back to her story and to start a conversation about the issues that it raises.
Yeah, I mean, if it's done well, it could really shed light on the darker side of the entertainment industry.
And on the power dynamics that often silence victims.
Right, and maybe even inspire some positive change.
That's the hope, at least.
So I guess we'll have to wait and see how the film turns out.
Yes, I'm definitely curious to see it.
Me too, me too. Well, this has been a really intense deep dive.
It has.
A lot of twists and turns, and I'm still not sure I have all the answers.
I don't think anyone does.
But I do feel like we've gained a deeper understanding of Pepsi Paloma's story and its significance.
And I think that's what's important, to keep asking questions, to keep the conversation going, and to never forget what happened.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining me for this deep dive.
It was my pleasure.
And to our listeners, thank you for listening, for taking this journey with us.
Yeah, we encourage you to continue exploring the story on your own and to come to your own conclusions.
Because it's a story that deserves to be remembered.
Absolutely.
And hopefully learned from.
Yes, hopefully learn from.